Good morning, Benjamin School. Whoop, I went too far. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm honored to have this opportunity to talk like TED and reflect on the theme of Pentimento with you. As you know, and I know you know because fabulous teachers like Tina James have been pounding this into your minds over the last few weeks, but Pentimento is a visible trace of earlier painting beneath a layer or layers of paint on a canvas. Well, I turned 50 this year, and have I got paint, and lots of layers too. And in fact, if anyone here understands the real meaning of the term Pentimento in the context of me personally, it's probably Tina. For Tina has been in my life for 45 years. I already told you my age, so you can do the quick math and realize I have not spent much of my life without Tina in it. She can probably see the layers in me more clearly than anyone. So when I first heard what the theme of your talks today were, I thought, why do a whole day on the stuffing in olives? How does my life and career relate to those little red pepper pieces? Am I the stuffing in the olive? I'm that thing that you slurp out first to savor on its own, or perhaps you just chew me up with the whole and enjoy how I blend in together. I stretched the analogy even further and equated the Pimento theme with my top 5 leadership competencies as outlined in the book that I wrote a chapter for last year called Real Women, Real Leaders. And these competencies are: 1, takes initiative; 2, inspires and motivates others; 3, builds relationships; 4, collaboration and teamwork; and 5, develops strategic perspective. So I take initiative by opening the jar and grabbing the olive. I urge others to take an olive from the jar too. That's inspiring and motivating others. We taste the olives together and ponder and discuss their briny deliciousness, which is representative of building relationships or collaboration and teamwork. And slurping and savoring the pimento on its own is symbolic of how I develop a strategic perspective. Imagine my leadership approach all in a jar of olives. Okay, now I'm getting ridiculous and taking this a bit too far. Olives, my life, pimentos, my career, what the heck am I talking about? Was I ever glad when I realized that I heard the theme wrong? So Pentimento, my Pentimento, what is that? Well, I believe that is my layers of memories, feelings, and experiences that have been scratched and scraped and changed and brushed and smoothed out over and over again throughout these last 50 years to form the current way I identify myself today. In personal terms, as a woman, a fundraiser, a mother, a professional, a dog lover, and a friend. The more I reflected, the more I came to realize that there are 2 people, 2 loving life artists, let's call them, who created the original, that's the original me, and have been significantly impacting me ever since. Those people are my parents. Meet Bibbs and Duddy. Well, that's what I called them, but their names are Dorman and Estelle Avery. They were married for 50 years, they were best friends, and sadly they're no longer with us today, but oh, their spirit is alive and well in this piece of work speaking to you right now. They were the first ones to put brush to my canvas and work to refine, shape, and mold me. Bibbs and Duddy weren't typical parents, they were exceptional parents. They were hilarious parents. I laughed long and hard growing up in that household. I have very fond memories of playing board games on Friday nights and intense rounds of Monopoly, Scrabble, Boggle, and the game Balderdash. And in Balderdash, my dad would come up with definitions for words like twangdillo, and he said, that's an armadillo that doesn't smell so fresh. Today, I tend to define myself first as a woman. That's what 13 years at an all-girls school will do for you. I attended an all-girls private school from kindergarten through 12th grade, along with my friend Tina here. There were 26 girls in our graduating class, and 7 of us had been there since kindergarten. At that point, we were practically related. But the AAG environment instilled pride in being a girl and a young woman, and didn't make us think that our gender presented any obstacles. I then view myself most strongly as a mother who definitely is loud, laughing, and tired. I'm the mother of 2 wonderful human beings, a 17-year-old daughter, Angela, and a 14-year-old son, Avery. And for fun, this is what Pentimento looks like when you scrape away their layers of time and change. I always have been a mother whose kids have to fit into my life rather than the other way around. For example, my kids didn't have a set nap time every day. They had to learn how to nap on the go. It turned out they became very adaptable that way, and I didn't have the great meltdown take place if the nap didn't happen during the day. I instilled openness and flexibility in them. Being a mother has changed my life in many ways, glorious, painful, fulfilling, and deeply meaningful ways. Today it's my children who move me to stand strong, work hard, and try to make a difference. But before they entered my life, it was really my own mother who moved me to be a leader very early on. She loved me beyond belief, routinely boosted me up, instilled in me a firm sense of confidence, and always burst at pride with my accomplishments. She was my biggest fan and toughest critic. Her spirit most certainly lives on in me today. And in fact, it's a little eerie how much I've become like her. I catch myself adopting more and more of her idiosyncrasies the older I get. Like her, I now don't like bright lights. I love candles. I stay up really late. And most recently, I found I want my food to be piping hot. I guess you could say she's the reflection you would see underneath the paint of my canvas. And as you go through life and touch up your paintings, know that there are challenges to being you, whoever that is. But it's okay. We somehow fairy-taled the story of personal and professional futures, but balancing the demands of life, career, and family is hard. I refer to all of the management as choreography. And in my professional career, I've been fortunate to work with organizations that have been supportive of tired women trying to balance their professional and personal lives. But sadly, this is the exception, not the rule. Perhaps the Career and Family Balancing Act will be easier for all of you because you won't have to go anywhere to work. You'll just sit in a room with a screen and conduct business as necessary. The car will be able to drive little Julie to soccer practice without you. And I predict that they'll start building houses that have a media wall built in, one wall that will just be a screen. Keep in mind, I work for a media company, so I don't think that's a really bad idea. In these newly configured homes, or let's call them tech palaces, you'll all probably social media yourselves into oblivion and hardly ever interact with a soul. Oh, and let me tell you a little dirty secret about me. I don't do social media. No Twitter, no Facebook, no Instagram for me, and I linked out years ago. And I'm doing just fine. I actually stay in touch with what's going on in the world. I like a lot of things. I have plenty of friends. And I hate to break it to you, but that thing you call a phone, whether it's an iPhone or Samsung or otherwise, you can actually call people up with it and talk to a real live person. You can have a real conversation that isn't restricted by 140 characters. And thankfully, I don't have any followers, for that sounds really creepy to me. I don't want someone following me walking down the street or when I'm driving in my car and I can see them. Why on earth do I want a bunch of people following me who I can't see at all? I once suggested to someone that we should have a party for people like myself who don't use social media. And she said, well, but how would anyone find out about it? You don't use social media. So Pony Express it is. And if you scrape down your canvases, there's a lot of high-tech Pentimento at the base for you. Your generation really doesn't know life without Wi-Fi and technology. I grew up with the dinosaurs and had to walk across the room to change the channel on the television. And there were only 4 channels to choose from. Thank goodness PBS was one of them. And in your technologically advanced worlds, just remember to always be in control of how you work within that social communication space. If you use social media, use it wisely. Be thoughtful and smart. My son will play NBA 2K on the PS4 with random players from cyberspace, and I'm like, aren't you worried about who's out there playing with you? And he says, no, Mom, it's probably just some 20-year-old in their parents' basement. And I said, that sounds like cause for concern to me. Since there seem to be lots of people living in their 20s, living in their parents' basements these days, I think this is a good time to stress the importance of a good education. I know it may sound cliche, but it really is important. Education is the key to going wherever your heart desires. I recently heard a talk by Google's education evangelist, and that is his real title. You can Google it if you don't trust me. And he made the point that now is the time to transform learning. He said that Generation Z is global, social, visual, and technological. Instead of asking you all, what do you want to do when you grow up, we should be asking you all, what problem do you want to solve? So all of you, as you create your own Pentimento, ask yourself this question and make answering it part of how you go forward, sculpting yourself. I actually didn't set out on this career path. I didn't have a particular job in mind that I was training for or felt destined to become. I've been lucky enough to have had some great career opportunities through the years that tended to find me more than I found them. I liken my career path to that of a tumbleweed. And the only common theme throughout my professional life is that I've worked at large, complicated organizations that everyone has heard of: Harvard, Smithsonian, and PBS. I was assistant dean of Harvard College, and prior to that worked for several years as a senior admissions officer. And the funny thing is, I haven't worked in admissions for nearly 20 years, and I still have friends calling me asking for tips and advice about the admissions process as their kids get closer to it. And in fact, my daughter is a junior and about to enter the admissions fray, but oddly enough, she doesn't want any of my advice. She doesn't think I know what I'm talking about. She tells me I worked in admissions in the old-timey days. But what I have learned over the years is that you simply need to follow your heart, find your passion, and pursue your dreams to their fullest, because time really is precious and fleeting. Yes, your worlds are very different, but time still passes at an incredibly fast pace. Therefore, treasure the time you have now. Appreciate the friendships you have today. They would very well be the friends you will want and need to lean on tomorrow. Support your friends and be kind to one another. Friendships are extremely important in life, so be a good friend. I have been very fortunate to have wonderful friends, and the closest ones in my life now are the ones who were closest to me when I was your age. Speaking of friends, I mentioned earlier that another key aspect of me is being a dog lover. Now the slides went out. You really need to see the dog. She's adorable. She's a crazy 7-year-old lab mix, and they refer to dogs as man's best friend. I like to think of her as woman's best friend. I think Bella's Pentimento is a big heart, because when you scrape away at a dog's canvas, what you see is love. Pure, unconditional love. Trust me, my husband and kids aren't nearly as excited when I come home as Bella is. My daughter and I foster dogs and get to experience the big, oh, there they are, there's Bella, look at her. She's crazy, she's really crazy. My daughter and I foster dogs and get to experience the big-heartedness of dogs in many ways while they are in our care. And those are all of the fosters that we've had over the last few years. So when it comes to Pentimento, I guess Bella and I have a lot in common. Scrape away, and we both are all heart underneath. And in my case, it is this woman that made me the woman I am today. Thank you.